Hey everyone, so today's episode is one that hits at the heart of what we believe here at Beyond HR, that the impact we have as HR leaders extends far beyond any policy or department. We're talking about culture, and we're not talking about just an HR initiative, but as a shared responsibility that starts with how we lead ourselves. So we're joined by JenDina Bowers, who is the founder and chief workplace impact partner at Sky Infiniti. JenDina is an inspiring leader. We love her here. She brings both clarity and heart to the conversation around culture, self-awareness, and what it means to truly cultivate the conditions for growth. In our conversation, she reminds us that the culture can't live in one department, i.e., HR, or even leadership, and that the most impactful leadership starts with reflection, care, and intention. So if you've ever felt like the weight of culture change rests solely on your shoulders or like you're constantly pushing uphill, this episode will speak directly to you. Welcome to Beyond HR, the podcast for people-first leaders who know that HR is about more than checklists and compliance. I'm Paige, your co-host, and we will explore the real challenges shaping today's workplaces. From burnout and belonging to strategy and storytelling, we're bringing you honest conversations, practical insights, and a fresh take on what it means to lead with heart in the world of work. Before we dive into our episode, here's a quick word from our launch sponsor.
If you're feeling stretched thin, juggling big changes, emotional labor, and communication breakdowns, you're not alone. Hi everyone, I'm Dan Kaplan, founder of Bring Disc to Life, an online community for aspiring leaders and HR professionals. We give you the strategies, tools, and encouragement to communicate in ways that increase your influence while lowering your stress. Using DISC, the 5 behaviors, and mindfulness, you'll learn to stay grounded, read minds, and frame your message to influence others. We have live workshops every month, group coaching to unpack tough situations, and tons of easy-to-use scripts, strategies, and resources that you can apply right away without adding more to your plate. So come refuel with a community that gets you and wants to help you speak your truth in a way that's heard. Join us at confidentcommunicator.com and click on community. That's confidentcommunicator.com. Lead yourself and others will follow.
Welcome, JenDina. Thank you so much for your time today.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you. And so we're going to start with, our general opener that we normally do for everybody. Same question. So, JenDina, tell us, who would you say you are at your core and what fuels the passion for the work that you do?
Oh, this is a wonderful question. And but I will try to align and simplify this because your core is supposed to be like, what is that one thing that drives you? Mm-hmm. And at my core, I would say, I am the community. I'm the community, and the community is me. I am my brother and sister. I see me in them, and I see them in myself. So that's who I am at my core.
That's awesome. So what fuels the passion, really, talking about community? What fuels the passion for the work that you do?
So I would say I'm fueled. It's funny because I look at passion as part of 3 Ps: as pain, as purpose, and in passion. Your passion usually comes out of what causes you pain. And why is it always causing you pain? So I'm fueled by the harm that we tend to normalize and we're not rectifying. So that fuels my passion for healing, restoration, and just continue to be an example of loving your neighbor.
Yeah. I love that. So talking about all of those things, can you share a bit about your journey in particular and what led you to opening your Sky Infiniti business?
Thank you. That's a good question too. And I'm gonna go ahead and just say failing chemistry 101.
Oh gosh,
that was like, you're going in a different direction.
There's a pivot. Yeah, pivot.
There's always that pivotal moment, it seems.
It was so pivotal because I just knew I was going to med school And right now I'm a coach. And when my players come to me with like open blood and everything, I'm like, oh my gosh, go to someone else. I can't even do it. Like, let's get a Band-Aid stat. I'm not washing nothing off. I'm not doing nothing. I just, please get that out my face. So I really look back at that over time, like, man, I would have been a crappy doctor, a crappy nurse, or whatever it is. But I think that was centered around me caring for people. And, just really wanting to be that leader that created a change in someone's life. And I just think I'm doing it in a different way. So, failed that, speared off into social sciences, where I studied multicultural social psychology. At the time, my university didn't have organizational psychology, and I don't think many people knew about it. But I knew this was something that would help workplaces. I was like, I want to work. So when I graduated too, they're like, go into mental health. I went into mental health. They said, go get your PsyD, become a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And I started that path, and then I was like, I really don't like diagnosing people. I really don't like medicating people. I really don't want to be in that field. But I did still want to help. I still wanted to help. So, but I knew, I was like, why can't psychology live inside an organization? And for some reason, I was just being told the narrative, like they never heard of that. And that wasn't the thing. But yet today I'm hearing about so many industrial psychologists and workplace analysts that have studied it long before I graduated. So I'm like, okay, so you're saying I can't use my psychology degree in like corporate? Why? And I kept being steered towards social services, which is, I'm like, okay. So I went to went through that, working with the community, creating care coordination, that then speared into social work, advocacy, local government work, and then speared into public administration and leadership. So then I started to help with organizational development. I started to see too is that the values are just like a picture on a wall where you see your workplace labor thing that you have to have everywhere. Yeah. Nobody looks at that. But that's kind of like how organizations were placing their values. It's just like check in a box, stick it in a corner, don't look at it ever again. And we weren't practicing it in the organization. We weren't even practicing it in our services. So what that really looked like, and that kind of just led me to why aren't we practicing it? And then a lot of time is we don't have spaces where we feel safe enough or brave. I would say, courageous and brave enough to do that, because safety is like, it's counting out the risk. Everything we do in life is going to have a risk. It's always going to have a consequence. I would not say go out and do something, foolishly without looking at what are the risks and things about it. But when we are doing it, we're like, I'm gonna do it despite what may happen because it is the right thing to do.
Awesome.
So that's a brave space.
How would you approach helping people understand the link between the mental health and the workplace?
So Brene Brown has talked about in her Daring Leadership just the evolution of our work. And I love how she says, I'll say in the olden days, you had to be, we were muscularly strong, right? We were muscularly strong. We were doing hard physical labor. Then it kind of evolved into, the brainiacs. We're using brain strength, or brain labor. But what our world really needs is that heart labor, getting into how are we using our hearts and showing up. And I think that's linked to, and it is linked to what we're seeing, because how your mind works, and this is where my psychology gets to come in, how your mind works is what it's viewing, is interpreting, am I in danger or not? And your mental health, if it's always perceiving danger, then there's going to be a decline in how you function. So that environment links to how well I can perform at work.
I just heard someone say the other day, and it's funny how you're bringing up the same thing. It's kind of great. I heard somebody say the other day when we were just chatting about a different topic, and she's super fascinated about the brain. And they say, she was telling me about having that gut feeling. It's really not a gut feeling, it's actually in your brain because you are constantly analyzing, am I at risk? Am I, at risk for anything in life, right? And so it's essentially kind of a gut feeling. That's what you think it is, but you can't analyze what it is quite yet, but there's something there. So it's funny how
it's
you
like a
say that.
symptom from
Yeah.
what you're experiencing. So
Yes.
everything, like when the brain reacts so fast, very fast, and then like the symptoms and the somatics that you feel in your body also are ways that is talking back to you, like, no,
Yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's a way that your body's like, I don't feel good right here.
Yeah.
And when we experience it enough, then we start to term it like a gut feeling because we've experienced it numerous times, and we're starting to listen to it. And guess what? And it's because we're all doing it. We're all experiencing it. And I guess it's because we're all humans.
Yeah. Yeah. Hands down. Hands down. So Will was kind of alluding to this a little bit, but when we had our chat before, just trying to get to know each other and everything. So you said something that really stuck with me in particular, that culture can't live in one department. Can you unpack what that means to you and why it actually matters?
Yes. So if you think about the tools of cultivating a healthy culture and how, or let's go something even further. Let's simplify it to this. If we only have one person in our family who knows how to wash dishes, how about that? Who knows how to clean the house? Who knows how to prepare dinner? And something happens to that person, they're no longer in capacity to do the job, or they decide, I'm going to leave. You guys don't appreciate me. This is all I do. Now, where does the skills go? How are you going to do that? And you're going to have to learn eventually, to continue staying afloat. So same thing with an organization. This skill set and this responsibility of cultivating a healthy culture should not live in just one department. And then you shouldn't put it in one department under one manager and then silence them.
Yeah.
And that's what we tend to do. That's what we've seen. That's what I've seen anyway. That's what I've seen is we'll put it, let's write it out, put it in policy, in the back of the handbook, and that this is what it is. This is our work. And then let's not invite that manager to any of the decision-making meetings. And let's not cross-departmental collaborate with them. Because they're going to hold us accountable and they're going to ask some questions because this is part of their job. But we want it a part of our organization.
Yeah. So really those
We got it.
conversations are super important to have. So then everybody, for the formal term, buy-in per se, I despise that term anymore. I feel like it's more collaboration than getting buy-in. You should not be influencing people. You should just talk to them as human beings, right? So it's kind of, even being in an organization that promotes a lot of collaboration has changed my mindset rather than, more of that corporate setting of buy-in, right?
Buy-in.
Yeah.
That's just rooted in our capitalistic norms.
Right. Right.
And with that same mindset, where do you think people go wrong in trying to bring back that humanity and aspect of being better stewards of our employees and their mental health and everything else? Where do you think people go wrong in that?
So this is a good question because I've recently had an incident where the intentions were good and they were looking at a specific outcome or a specific reason why they did it, but didn't look at the holistic impact that it would have. And we can't know everything, right? We can only intentionally do our best. And that if you're moving and it does backfire, own it. Anytime, it's hard to be true to yourself and, like confront yourself. And I'd rather confront myself than have somebody else do it and then back channel talk about it. And then now I'm looking like a toxic person. You have good intentions, but own the impact as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What would that look like? In the example that came to mind, because I saw you thinking about the particular example, or if you could go into details without giving the specific, people involved, like what kind of was the scenario, and what would that look like, kind of owning the
impact,
consequence and impact of that?
Yeah. So stop trying to rationalize why you did it and understand that there was a negative impact on that person.
So kind of self-reflection piece, right?
Yeah. So for instance, I had, one of the things that I really try my hardest to practice is inclusion. And this is not inclusion like, let's go find everybody, every diverse person and all that. That's no. If I'm so for instance, I mentioned I'm a coach. So if I'm doing something for one, I want everybody to have the opportunity or access to experience that too. Like, I know there's other people here who may be interested. So I'll give you the opportunity to have access to it. If you don't want to be part of it, I understand. So one of the things was there was a particular manager who decided to have a meeting and intentionally not invite one of the core members. And that's not the culture that we consistently moved in. We've always moved in transparency. And inclusion of people. So one, there wasn't no transparency because a meeting happened and did not include that core member. Had they had the opportunity or even knew about the information, they would have been there and there wouldn't have been an impact of that person feeling slighted. And then when the issue was brought to light, there was still a series of, this is why I did it. This is why I did it. This is the reason why. And it was no, really just owning it and realizing, I'm sorry, I did mess up, but this is why I did it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like they always have to feel like they have to explain themselves. And when you could just own it and say, I'm really sorry I made you feel that way. I'm really sorry. And what can I do better? How can I help? Like, how can I actually build this relationship again because I am sorry? Yeah. And just being okay with that and stopping and saying, but, I had to do this because of blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about that anymore because somebody's upset and that's what matters.
Yeah, and a lot of times, unfortunately, it's correlated to the fact that we have this idea that leaders have to be perfect. Like, we can't make mistakes, that, we're at this higher level in the rungs of the company. And God forbid you do something wrong, even though everybody knows that we're going to do something wrong, we still hold ourselves to that higher standard of being perfect. And the minute that something doesn't go quite the way that it should have gone, it's easier to say, well, you know what? If this would have worked and that would have worked and this and that, and maybe it wouldn't have been as bad as we made it out to be, or as bad as it could have been. Instead of, to your point, just say, you know what? We screwed up. That's on us. How can we learn from this experience and move forward? And I'm sorry that I left you out of the meeting. I'll work on that next time. Make sure that you're part of the team and and understanding what we're going to do and move on from there. But it's just something.
There are some responsibilities that have to do with like the processes and and policies and systems, and we also too are part of that. Though it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. It's like. There's people and there's policy. The people make the policy. The people are just enforcing the policy. Which one?
Yeah, it's true. So like thinking about HR, because I think I speak very widely, but I think as HR professionals and even leaders in general, you do put a lot on yourself and you kind of say, I have to be perfect. I cannot make this mistake. And so we were just talking about, we just got out of a Cumberland Valley SHRM meeting talking about limiting beliefs. And that to me is kind of a limiting belief. So how would you say that HR and leadership can essentially kick themselves in the butt and say, stop trying to be perfect. You're not going to be. without, downing themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's really great question, Paige. I have created a journal. It's called My Way Days, and it was designed out of leadership wellness. There's a you shortening yourself or diminish. I would say you're operating or are out of your capacity. Sometimes you're overwhelmed and you just don't have no control. And that's a limited belief. You do have control. You absolutely do. And it doesn't have to be just an organizational leader. We are all leaders, able to make decisions. Like my 8-year-old leads. Okay. She leads today.
No kidding.
She was like, I would prefer to go carpool because I do not trust my bus drivers driving. Leading. I'm making the choice that I'm not putting myself in that situation. So leading does not have just an organizational title. And we are not limited to the belief that we don't have control or that we have to do things because someone else or the world tells you this is how it needs to be done. You have full control.
That's a good point. Like, this world makes you feel like you should be a very certain way. And it's like, once you go outside of that box, you're quote unquote weird, or like, that's a very odd person. And I don't love that.
Yeah. I wish we all would just be weird.
Yeah, I think it's better being weird.
Everybody be weird.
Yes, I am weird in my own way, I'll tell you. I was for a very long time in HR, just even when I started in HR, I felt like I had to be perfect, poised, great all the time, like on it all the time. I've realized that was actually very ineffective. And now, being in for almost 10 years at this point, I'm more so just myself. But I found that the culture of the place kind of drived what I was attaining to be. And so the organization that I'm in now, my gosh, they're great. They want you to come to work as your full self. And I know that's very hard, and I'm not trying to rub it in to someone, right? But that is hard to find. But once you find it, boy, you could be weird every day and they still love it.
Yeah. You mentioned to me, because when I would get dressed, I was in my closet, I would get dressed and go to work. And this is when I was in an organization. And it came to me that it was called bias breakdown. As I was getting dressed, I'm like, how do I want people to perceive me? And I was like, this is a bias. I'm dressing to your bias. I want you to perceive me a certain way because you perceive people who look like a certain thing or act a certain way in different identities. So it was a bias breakdown to me. When I go somewhere, depending on the specific situation, for instance, court. Been in a courtroom several times, but when people prepare for court, they go to be perceived and received, accepted.
Yeah.
Because your bias about me is how I organized my day. Thanks.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? There for a long time. I mean, for visitor or viewers that can't see right now, I'm showing my tattoos, and I used to cover
all the beautiful colors and art on your arm.
See, and I used to hide it. And now I just don't. I'm like, you won't see me often wearing short sleeves because I just don't want to, because I get cold. But if it's hot outside, I'm going to wear a short sleeve. And man, I have built so many relationships over these tattoos. It's odd. But everybody's like, oh my gosh, so beautiful, so colorful. Man, who did your artwork? I'd love to go see them. So it's building relationships unconsciously even. Just for being myself.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So,
art is beautiful.
It is, yeah.
So, however it's expressed.
Yeah, right. However you want to express it. Throwing paint I don't know, there's these things where you can throw buckets of paint onto these big canvas things. I'd love to do that sometimes. That would be beautiful. It'd be also very fun and messy and, just kind of getting outside of a comfort zone that, I've stayed in so long. So one of the questions that I have for you, kind of shifting back into culture, because we're talking a lot about culture and how to fit in and perceptions and all of these things. So what do you think it would look like that to truly embed culture across an organization and across teams, especially when like organizations might have teams that are siloed?
I think it goes back to your values that you intentionally create it, but we don't intentionally follow, and it doesn't drive our decision making. One of the things I got the privilege to work in a very healthy culture, loving culture. And the leader was just very intentional on, do our values align on this? Let's go back to our values. Let's revisit our values. Any decision making thing, especially if there was a conflict, let's revisit our values. Are we, do they need to be adjusted? And values can adjust. Oh my gosh. When I did like a personal branding thing, and I realized, I said, my values have changed. And it's okay that your values change. It is okay when we have new information that tells you or shows you how to do better, do better. Make that adjustment. It's alignment. It's always an alignment for me. And it's and for me, and then this is what Sky Infiniti, it's like you cannot grow too much. Okay, you just can't grow too much. So that's why Sky Infiniti is just saying, sky is not the limit.
Yeah.
So I would say creating a culture where the shared values, and I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your shared values of how you operate, the mindsets, the hearts, because those are things that really ground us in our decision making. They really do. Your belief influences their thinking, that influences your action. So and a lot of people are very touchy about their beliefs. So those are things that they protect. So, and then you put in systemic processes that hold people accountable to staying in alignment or exercising these beliefs. I think that you're going to always have to work on your growth. It's a continuous learning experience. So staying rooted in humility over competence is going to help an organization go far.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how would you say for someone that's never done the exercise of figuring out what their values are, either for themselves or for the organization, what would you say is a good way to going about that?
So it is your staff engagement, and I am more than happy to help facilitate that. That is one of the services Sky Infiniti does, and I absolutely love doing it. You bring everybody to the table. Everyone. And you talk as much as you need to. You get it done as long as it takes till we come to a solution.
And how would you do that for yourself? Like when you sat down and you said, all right, I need to figure out what are my values, even if it's just to adjust them, but having that exercise of saying, I'm going to sit down, I need to figure out what my values are. Where do you start?
So, they're kind of like your deal breakers. You make a list of whatever they are, and you don't need an extensive list. I put probably 4 of mine, but my top one was honesty. What does the practice of honesty look like? And what does the practice of not upholding honesty look like? So you know how to realign yourself. If I'm doing these behaviors that do not uphold honesty, I know I'm not in alignment with my values.
Okay. That makes sense. So, you said something to me before too. You had a lot that really stuck with me during our conversation, and we even, just for the listeners. So JenDina and I, whenever we met, we went a lot longer than anticipated. And I'm like, gosh, we need to hold some of this to actually talk about during the episode. So we may even be repeating things. But you said something to me, and I was like, oh, I have to write this down. And I actually did. It's in my notebook. And you said we have to cultivate the soil for seeds to be planted to produce good fruit. So it's such a very powerful metaphor. So how do you see that playing out in leadership, like team development and organizational culture?
Oh yeah. So I got that metaphor. Just, I love spending time in nature and just seeing how it balances itself out. And one of the things too is when we're planting something, like really taking a look at where is it going? Where are we planting this? Are we supposed to be planting carrots next to a nuclear plant? You know what?
True.
Yeah.
But a soil that is unhealthy bears no fruit, and nothing healthy will come of it. What's breeding in our world is a hurt after hurt after hurt. And if you, like I said, the metaphor, if you ever try to plant something, looking at your flower pot, a lot of people, we love the clean air, right? So we got a lot of these leaves around, or you might have fake leaves, whatever. But if you're looking at that pot, plants tell you a lot about how you're doing too. So Sky Infiniti is looking for a partnership for planters if you would like to help sponsor sending out some plants. But it'll tell you a lot about how it's doing in the environment that you put it in. For instance, if it's not receiving water, or if the soil is kind of like, filled with chemicals, you're going to see other things come up out of it. You'll see, and we can see that sometimes out of our fruits and vegetables that we buy from the grocery store, that where it was grown was not in a healthy soil. You can see that in your produce. So for example, let's go back to the plant. You'll see other things coming up, and landscapers will probably say like, yeah, you got, this weeds coming out, or, these plants are distressing. And then before you know it, your investment just dies trying to survive. It's so distressed. And the same goes for our organizations, right? So from your these small grassroots organizations that may just be little buds of plants, to these large enterprise rainforest tree organizations, right? If the soil isn't good to begin with, what you bring in and what you will put out is not going to be healthy. Your work in that place, we talked about weeds coming up. And things that were not helping with the flourishment of the pot. Same thing with leaders. We have toxic leaders coming up. And these toxic leaders coming up are then affecting and distressing the workforce. And they're distressed just trying to survive and get through the day to day till they leave. And that's the same thing till the plant decides, I just can't do it anymore, and it just dies. And then we're all like, I got to bring it back. I got to bring it back. I got to bring it back. Then you give it all the nutrients that it was looking for in the first place.
Yeah. And then it's kind of a little too late at that point too, sometimes. And you're like, oh, I can't bring it back. And then it's another recruitment that you have to do. And then, the cost of turnover is huge. And we all know that. So like, why can't we just focus in on these things? Like, why is it such a struggle? Maybe we bring plants in. Can't plants like feel, and this might be out of whack, but can't plants feel like sadness? I can't remember. Yeah. Do you have any insight on these things? I'm about to bring one in my office.
I am not a professional in the planting. I do have a few plants that I keep and I do pay attention to the different places that they're in.
Yeah.
And what they're looking like wherever they are. So, and if I'm giving them too much of something And I also interpret this as like a support language for workers. Like not every worker wants a gift card.
That's right.
My support language, which is kind of like your love language, my support language is different. I need a different way of being supported, and you have to be intentional about that. Just giving everybody a specific amount of PTO or whatever it is. Maybe they don't like their house.
True.
I don't know.
True.
But you gotta meet them where they are. Be adaptive to that. I did want to mention though, with the talking about the large rainforest enterprises and then the small grassroots tree or companies, there is some research and information from CenterMe, which is an emotional business intelligence company. They take a very good look at emotion or enterprise collapse disorder, and they relate this and to a biological standpoint, just like I just did with the trees and stuff, with worker bees and the colony collapse disorder. So you cannot survive, you can't thrive, you can't hide a toxic workplace. Even like in biology, in human real life, you can't hide something that's not working.
Very true. You make me want to do research on plants.
It's going to come out. So, yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things
again,
I think,
just stay rooted in learning and just growing.
one of the things I like about the analogy of plants, anyways, is we have a little homestead at the house, and we do plant some things outside for food and whatnot. One of the conversations my wife and I were having recently about our message and just the struggles of being in HR and feeling kind of the mission of our podcast, dealing with burnout and recognition of passion, is the fact that the seed is not for everyone, and sometimes we try to, as HR people, force people their groundwork to be receiving of the seed, and being able to draw that boundary of saying, you know what, this particular person, it doesn't matter how many times I put that seed in that soil, it's never going to grow because they're not ready. It is not their time to receive that seed. The nutrients is not where it needs to be. So sometimes I was watching a movie recently where I think it was Bulletproof Monk, where there's a quick interaction between the monk and one of the female protagonists, and she's like, I see potential in him, in the main guy, and she's like, yeah, he's full of crap. And then his statement was, but even something to the effect of, even a field that's full of crap will eventually be fertile enough to allow things to grow. Something to that effect.
I love that, Will.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And it's very much like, at what point you have to have some love for yourself to say, you know what, I'm burning myself out, spinning my wheels, trying to get people to get this message. Maybe this is just not the right timing for that to happen, for that to grow, for that to develop roots. And because I continuously try to force the issue, I'm burning myself out. I'm seeing that, you know what, my what the heck am I here for? What am I doing? Should I even give a crap? Like, and having that internal struggle. But I think seeds and bees, for sure, I'm glad that you brought up bees, are like an amazing analogy for the mechanics and the inner works and between your companies and employees and management and everything else. So.
Yeah, and I crushed biology. I didn't do chemistry good, but I crushed biology.
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, so those talking about Will and kind of burning himself out, trying to force things, right? What practical things can HR leaders do to start cultivating like that soil for themselves? What can they do?
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on what Will was talking about, that a crappy place will soon cultivate something fertile. I always tell organizations when they come to me and want to talk about, when we go through a discovery, we talk about what state they're in. No soil is too far gone. No soil is too far gone. And soil lives. Soil's everywhere. So, that's why we focus on it's about restoring. It's not about just saying I'm just so far gone. Like we can restore this. Come on, it's all right. But it is when you're ready. Sure. Because it's also like the seed has timing. It has timing attached to it.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about practical things, I would say for me, sometimes it's just always looking at the person in front of you, looking at the whole person in front of you, not just their issues, not just how much you pay them, not just the problem or the numbers or anything, but looking at the whole person. And that extends to, not just their diversity too, of their ethnic origin and their visible capabilities, but it's like, okay, I have this encounter with you. I get to have this encounter with you. Not that I have to, not that I need to, or not that I'm entitled to it.
Sure.
I get to have this encounter with you. Like I had this encounter with you guys, and I get to decide, will I continue to perpetuate harm, or will I bring this as a space for you to heal or to promote healing? I look at if I'm perpetuating harm, wow, if I just called Will a sucker, how he may feel when he goes into his next interaction and then that next interaction.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, we want to give a special thank you to two of our sponsors. First, we'd like to once again thank our launch sponsor, the Bring Disc to Life community at confidentcommunicator.com, for their generous support. We also want to thank one of our founding supporter sponsors, Chain Solutions. They have believed in the Beyond HR podcast since day one, and we are proud to have them alongside us. Chain Solutions has been a trusted name and background screening for just over 20 years. They are accredited, use secure mobile-first technology, and offer incredible responsive support with an average response time of just 18 minutes. If you're in need of a background screening partner who gets it right, fast and secure, Chain Solutions is one to know. And just for our listeners, they are waiving their usual $250 setup fee. Just mention you heard about them on the Beyond HR podcast. Thanks again to Chain Solutions for being a part of our journey.
So how would you say that you stay personally grounded and connected to your why?
Oh, how I stay grounded to my why. I take a lot of reflection. I do a lot of reflection. I am very cognizant of my environment. And I don't worry about what I have control over and what I don't have control over. So I know when I center myself. And that is one thing too. You have to be intentional on aligning and being present, because what we often do is we like to go head in, like I'm going to go hard, but I didn't have all my pieces with me, and you kind of get trampled on. So I'm very cognizant and I'm mindful of, am I present? Can I take this? Do I have a capacity right now? And if my capacity is at 5% and I give 5% and it looks like 5%, trust me, that was 100%.
Right.
And I'm not going to, and I can't extend myself over that. It's the same in nature. You cannot ask the sun for more time. And that's what you have to realize too with yourself. If we were using technology and it was like, okay, I'm shutting down, my battery's hot. You can't sit here and say, I need more time out of you.
Yeah.
You
True.
have to recharge it. You have to let it rest. And the same thing goes for us, guys. It goes for us as well. I accept. And that's one thing we don't like to do. We don't like to accept. I accept I'm not perfect. And I accept what I can't control. Not that what I can't control, but at this time, I'm not worrying about it. I'm not worrying about it. And I'm not perfect, but I am human and I embrace humanity. So at the end of the day, humanity is part of nature and it always balances itself out.
Yeah. What would you say that practice of recharge looks like for you?
It's journaling, using my journal. It's reflecting. It is a quiet space. It is prayer and asking for forgiveness or asking for revelation of what things I need to see that I'm not paying attention to. It is a confession of different things that I know I probably did wrong. Like some lady who was in the McDonald's drive-through line, who just had a question, didn't order anything, and wanted me to back up in the line. And I probably was an asshole to her. I was like, what? I can't do that. But
I
she
can't
probably,
hear you.
Yeah, right. Like, I can't hear you. What? And I just had to ask for forgiveness. I said, oh my gosh.
It's
I'm
like,
so
please,
sorry. But I don't know
forgive
what
me
her
for being a
situation
terrible
was. She
person.
probably was like in a high pursuit emergency, and I was just a complete ass. I'm going to do better next time.
Yeah.
I'm going to do better
Because we're
next
not
time.
perfect. I
Yeah.
mean, we love to think we are, but we're not.
And that's one of the things that, I mean, as we're trying to teach our kids and the next generations to go, like, you never know what that other person's reality is in that moment. And it's so easy to get caught up in our own reality. Oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. I'm running late. We had done a better job at being on time so that we wouldn't be running late and passing on that negative energy to the next person? Probably, but it takes that simple, the person could have been an emergency. Maybe they just came out of the house and they locked their car keys and like their house keys, and they had to call their so-and-so to come get it, and it became their problem for them. Like, we do not know in any way, shape, or form what that reality is in that moment. And it's so quickly easy to pass on that bad seed, the seed of weeds, into that soil that will grow throughout their day. And then God knows how many more people are going to be impacted by that one decision and interaction that you had.
Well, and
Very true.
just imagine, how people get bouquets of flowers? What if we would give them bouquet of like weeds?
Ragweeds.
You think they would like it? Yeah, something that somebody is allergic to, right? And you're like, here, I'm going to give you a bouquet of ragweed, and that is how I feel about you. I mean, that's kind of nobody would do that. So think of that in the sense of when you are interacting with other people, and just think of that. Would you do this if you knew someone was going through X? Probably not. So just think about, how will I make this person feel? That's super important. All these metaphors.
And I think about that, Paige, like if somebody was to deliver me or I was to receive a bouquet of ragweeds, what does that say about you?
Right. Hands down.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now, like, and it goes back to, you judge other people, you judge yourself.
Oh, it's so crazy. The brain, how it works. Love it. So we're kind of running up on time. I mean, JenDina, you know that I could talk to you all day. I know Will probably feels the same.
I'm a talker too.
I love all of these metaphors. But if you could say, if listeners could take away like one powerful insight from our conversation today, or something that you didn't mention quite yet, something that could truly help them maybe redefine their purpose, find fulfillment in what they do, what would that be?
Very good question. I would say take on the role as a caretaker. Being a caretaker means that you understand and you have provision of what's needed to promote well-being and to promote well-being or someone else's situation or the situation. So taking on the identity of caretaker, no matter what your title tells you, HR/caretaker or executive leader/caretaker. We all may not have children. We all may not have people who are depending on us, but we all are living in this world that we are going to receive what we put out.
True.
Reflect on harm. And because we've all felt it, we've all felt harm before. And so reflect on that, but and find ways to increase healing versus perpetuating that harm.
Yeah.
So I like to say, because I always get a no somewhere, but what was a yes? What was that glimmer of hope? What was how can we find a yes? But instead of continuing to perpetuate harm, how can we increase healing? How can we care?
Yeah.
And I think definitely if you make it an intention to, when you wake up in the morning, I'm going to find a yes today, and actually look for that yes throughout your day, that definitely would help with that.
That's really
as well.
good. I love that.
Yeah.
It's like that movie, The Yes Day. You're going to have a yes day. And so
My kids want one of those for every birthday. They're asking for a yes day.
oh gosh, my kids would want that every single day if they could get it. I think one of these days I might actually do that and just say, this is going to be a yes day within reason, kiddos, because they're 3 and 6. So they'll be like, we don't know what reasoning is. So gosh, that would be fun. But I love, finding that I'm going to find a yes today and having that positive, and the way that you show up is super important, because if you show up like a bump on a log, guess what? People are going to treat you like a bump on the log. If you show up like a principal or a rule type of person, they are going to treat you that way, right? So it's so important just how you show up. And I love all these metaphors because I'm going to use those. Be like a plant. I'm going to give you what you need. So tell me what you need.
Yes. So be on the lookout for the Sky Infiniti cartoon that will give you a visualization of everything I was just talking about.
Very nice.
Yeah. So where can people actually connect with you then?
Oh, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So searching Sky Infiniti with an I at the end, not a Y. I'm on all the social media handles, but LinkedIn is definitely most active and most up to date. You can also connect with me, JenDina Bowers, on LinkedIn. Visit my website and schedule a discovery. Let's talk. I do have some upcoming tools and projects that are going on. I want you to stay updated, and I also want you to stay informed and encouraged. So please connect.
That's right. Yep.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. I'm not doing this for clout. I'm really just trying to make an impact. I see that I couldn't be a doctor. So
it's that chemistry course.
I can help heal the heart though in a different way. Sort of.
Yes.
Also get the journal, get the My Way Days journal. And when you get that, you do have access to a free workshop that I share on how to use it effectively that will help you continue journaling. And you will also be welcomed and embraced inside of the My Way Days journal community, and where we are sustaining our self-alignment journey.
Yeah.
Be on the lookout too for the discussions around building restorative workplaces. There will be some live discussions where you can engage with us and other people who are experts in their field of ways that we can nourish workplaces and flourish community outcomes.
Love that.
Very nice.
Wow. You have a lot going on. That's really exciting stuff.
It is so exciting. It's so exciting. I say, well, God gave me the bread I need to feed.
Yeah,
there you go.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know people are going to pull a bunch of nuggets out of this, or a bunch of plants, flourishing plants, out of this episode in particular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that is the hope too, because and you also know we wouldn't have clean air if we didn't have them. So let's plant some clean air.
Very
That's right.
true. Very
That's right.
true. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, we
Thank you
appreciate
so
Thank
much
you so
for having me.
Of course.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond HR podcast. We hope today's episode inspired you to reflect and grow in your own HR journey. Connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Beyond HR Podcast. If you found value here, share it with your fellow HR professionals. Until next time, keep making an impact on yourself.